Hey everyone, Aaron here from Ultra RC Hobbies. We're with our friend Shawn. He's been in a lot of X-ray videos before.
Yes, he
but
has.
I don't know if you noticed, this ain't an X-ray anymore.
No.
So Billy, what's happening?
A little bit of a change. Gonna try something new. Go back to the old C-Hub cars. Give the C-Hub cars a try. Heard so many good things about the Tekno since they came out with the 48 platform, like with the 2.0, 2.1, and now the 2.2, which is the, kind of final, quote unquote, refined, revised version of that platform. And so gonna give that a try. Got a few things we're gonna add. Little Protect parts here, the Protect 4-shoe clutch. Just a little less aggressive than the stock clutch.
Yeah, more tunability because that kit does include composite shoes ×2 and aluminum shoes ×2. So you got a little bit of different stuff. He did have a bell too, so it does require a different offset bell than the Tekno clutch. So I think it's gonna be good. You have a couple options there for sure.
Yeah, you bet. And then the option springs. So these are the same spring rate as the stock ones. They're the yellows, just in different lengths. So the theory I think is gets the shocks riding up more, like in their kind of comfort zone.
Happy spot in the stroke.
Less sack in them and that for all you motocross guys.
And I think the other thing that does help too is you have that same rate but a shorter spring. So in a really high grip situation, you have the correct amount of spring rate at the point, like he said, of sack. And in high grip, we saw a lot of the team drivers for S-Works and some other brands run it, and it seemed to really help give that initial bite. The car didn't have to roll over into its stroke to get that spring rate. So definitely some tunability stuff and things we haven't seen really too much in the past because we've always been super bumpy and super loose. But now all the tracks that we're going to, whether it's Edmonton, Calgary, Chilliwack, all those places have been going to a more high grip, blue groove, hard pack surface.
Just develop that, And then, I mean, even just with the way the tires have gone nowadays, there's so many on the market. But the tracks just, if there's any clay in the track, you see that track start taking the rubber from the
really
tires
fast.
And like you said, grooving up and bluing up. So.
Yeah, so we're not gonna do an unboxing. We're gonna do something a little bit different. So please let us know down in the comments how you like this format. We also have another unboxing we're gonna be doing with a different person you haven't seen before. So I kind of wanna know what your opinion is on this. So throw that down in the comments. He's gonna get some build video and that's what we're gonna get into next. So stay tuned. With the power of editing, now the car's done. So how long did it take you roughly to get this kit built?
Probably, I'd say about 6-7 hours.
Fair, so pretty standard.
Yeah.
So overall, I mean, the car's done. It looks phenomenal. I know Tekno builds have always been good. So what would you say about the manual, the build process, and how everything was kind of laid out through the bags?
Really good on the most part. Like from a manufacturer standpoint, I would say for like North American versus like European manufacturers, I would put X-Ray at the top of the list, like as far as manual goes. On the European side of that, I would put Tekno at the top of that on the North American side from manufacturers, without a doubt. Really good full color manual. At the back they have like setup tips and that sort of stuff, like you change this is what it does, like the features on the car and that. Really good. I would put it on an overall build and like how the parts are in the bag, in the kit, slightly ahead of an X-Ray. Because they are divided up a little more, whereas with the X-Ray it's like, here's all your bearings for this step, here's all your screws for this step, go through them all, try to find the one you got. They are divided up a little bit more in the Tekno. And the one thing I really like about the Tekno, on each page for each step, it has a little full, like this is actual size for each screw you need. So it's like for a TKR 1523, this is what it is. So it's like you go through and you can like match it up to make sure you're grabbing an 8 mil instead of a 10 mil. Or,
it's not like an AE where you have the extra flappy bit that takes up more room.
Yeah, that's way at the front, and if you want to use it, you have to flip to the front. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I know like the X-rays got better for that, and they've kind of always done it now. But yeah, the Tekno, they've always been good. And the X-rays lately, especially the 10 scales, all the bearings are in a singular bag.
Yeah.
So it's just like, here is all of your bearings.
Here's
Figure it out, right?
Yeah. Well, it works for Mugen. Let's do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
The only other gripe of that was like, as an example, when I was mounting the engine in this. So you had the step that has all your hardware for mounting the engine. Well, the countersunk screws for engine mounting, and then the actual countersunk washers were in 2 separate bags. These are 2 components that go together. Like, why were the screws in bag, G1, and then with like the other hardware, which that makes sense. Then why were the washers in with the clutch shoes? Right.
Yeah.
So that's like it's not a huge thing, but I mean, if we're gonna be totally honest and like we're gonna pick, if there's anything we're gonna be nitpicking about, that would be my nitpick on the build. But otherwise, everything went together good. I didn't have to ream anything. Now that they're using the bushings and all of their pivot points on their suspension and that, it's just put the bushing in, set your hinge pin in, and away you go. And
all free play on everything. Yeah, because like looking at it before, it doesn't look like any of the inserts or any of the rod ends or any of the hollow balls or anything kind of gives you any bind. And I know if it's anything like the short course trucks we've been starting to build the 2.0, these kits honestly kind of just fall together. And I mean that in like the most literal, honest, awesome way ever. Because I mean these kits before definitely used to take a lot of work. Like back in the 0.4 days and before they've gone to the 2.0. I remember
you were trowel fitting the hinge pins and that. You had to have
we had chainsaw
file rasp, and you're like, basically premature wearing out the hinge pin hole.
Yeah. And you remember when we had to do all of the side gears to make sure that they rolled smooth on the cross pins and all of that stuff. Like these cars used to take a lot of work to get them together in a manner that wasn't bound up or was not going to cause you any grief on the racetrack when it came to just everything moving nice and freely. So it was a work.
Like speaking of, so now with like how everybody else has like the split design on a sway bar, and you have a little set screw to set the tension of it, which is great when you want to like you change the sway bar and it's a quick adjustment and that sort of thing. Well, these guys use a bushing, and there's like 4 different sizes of bushings depending on
your bar diameter.
By diameter. On that. But like it's literally just put the bushings in, set these two stays so it's not walking back and forth, and away you go.
Call it good.
And it's like always the same, always going to be consistent. You're not going to get like, oh, did I tighten that set screw a little too much or loosen it too much, or that sort of thing.
You're not sitting there like, okay, do I got play? Yeah, we're good. Oh, I'm going to tighten this side. Oh, now it's bound up. Yeah.
So I really like the little things like that, little details. Like obviously the design team and development team they got there over at Tekno has really been putting the hours in. So sway bars, I like that. And I mean, looking at most of the setup sheets, nobody really deviates too far from it.
And I like how they took the bearings out of there. They were having a lot of issues durability-wise.
And that's why they went to these bushings now, which you'd think, well, that's kind of a step backwards, isn't it? But now they have, and the problem I think is like with a bearing, you don't always have that easy adjustability of the inner diameter. And that's why there's the 4 different ones, because they have different sizes of the inner diameter to accommodate the different size of bar thickness.
Yeah, so it looks like they've gone to a new front hub now.
Yeah,
so you get a 21 degree caster.
Yeah, I think the old one was 18.
I do believe that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so now the standard is the 21, which I think is what most everyone was going to before.
And you get unis on this car too, out of the box.
Universals all the way around. I know in the rear they have the CVDs plus 2 or 3 different universal designs.
Yeah.
So from what I've heard is the different designs kind of move where the pivot point of the universal is, which then affects kind of how the car is in the bumps and just its stability. So by moving that, you can get the car to rotate a little more with how, gyroscopic effect and that sort of stuff. And like, how a wheel always wants, or a shaft spinning always wants to straighten out.
Yeah.
and things like that. With the one that comes in the kit is the one that's considered to be quote unquote give you the most stability in the car. So like they've you know, built the car around making it as stable as possible.
Which is good because this car has a lot of nose, so a lot of steering.
Yeah,
and
well,
it seems very aggressive, right?
Which is very, you know, typical of Teknos in the past and just of C-Hub cars in general, right? So.
Yeah, so then they still look like they're running the long shocks, but now with the disengaged shock tower. So what that means is there isn't a bridge across the two posts.
You still can get those, though they still have them available. It's an option part, and I think the guys run them on, depending on the track, especially on high grip. So when they're you know, when they're over in Erdoven a couple years ago or a year ago for the Worlds, they were doing stuff like that. Same with, now it comes with the -2 gearboxes and the -2 or low roll center hubs
as well. Yeah.
And that
still a really long shock though. I mean, that was always kind of Tekno's shtick, right? That's always what they did.
I feel like it doesn't stick up as high. I mean, we'll see in our next segment when we get to go head to head with the X-Ray. Yeah. Kind of put them side by side and see. And I'm curious to see how the, you know, your
geometry looks,
your CG and that on each car looks. For those with the keen eye will notice this is not the Tekno body. This is full disclosure, actually an X-Ray body. Yeah, but it did fit. So it was the only fully painted body I had already. So I was like, well, let's see if it'll slap on. And it, with a little bit of modification here, mostly at the back, it did.
Yeah. So. Going back to the shocks, emulsion caps, factory now, which is good.
Yes.
Do they include any other bladder, or is it only emulsion?
So it does have the bladder in that, and you can build it as a bladder if you wish, bladder or emulsion. Pretty much everybody's still sticking to emulsion though.
It kind of seems like the go-to for most right now. Is the bladder just a soft bladder, or is a honeycomb bladder?
Just the standard. It's actually the same bladder that they've been using for as long as I've been, like back when we were running Tekno, what, like 5-6 years ago?
Yeah. Okay, so nothing's changed there.
Yeah, it's, I mean, as far as the internals and that, it looked like the same O-rings from more of those orange ones that they'd been using before. The excuse me, bushings for inside in that, like spacers and bushings, they look the same design-wise, but they did, and I believe they said that they are a new revised material.
Gotcha.
So, and you can, so they have them on a tree.
Are they the black ones, or were they the machine Delrin? Or obviously not machined if they're on a tree.
They're on a tree, but they're white. So I think they're a Delrin, I think now.
So you don't have to update that, because that was something we did have to update for on the 0.4s.
Yes, and that was the only, well, that was the only way you can get the Delrin, is to get the machine ones. They do still offer the machine ones, so then you're not, you know, not having that little bit of a, you know, flashing on it. Yeah. On that, but I mean, if you got a good set of flush cutters and you're steady with a X-Acto knife, you're usually pretty good. I mean, it is, any flashing is on the exterior. It's not on where the shaft is moving through. So
correct. Shouldn't be much of an issue.
No, unless you notice something, there was a, you know, a fault in the mold or something like that, and it left flashing inside the holes of each of those.
Which is super uncommon nowadays.
It is,
right? Like we don't see that as often. So let's take the body off and let's talk about how you outfitted this electronics wise, and maybe some of the other things that you did extra on top of just the little stuff that comes in the box.
You betcha, you betcha. So I guess we'll work from the front back. So on the front and the rear shocks, they do come with the boots. I, however, used the X-Ray, more the billow style boots. Obviously the Tekno ones work. There's not necessarily anything wrong with them. The only thing I found is that being that they don't collapse really well, like they kind of fold over when you like under compression and that, then the spring would always cut it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, is the boot really doing that much if it's cut?
Yeah.
These are an old used set that are probably of X-Ray ones that are probably at least 5 years old, give or take. And they are still brand new. I've never had to replace a set of X-Ray ones, I gotta say.
Yeah.
So they fit. I tried them on, they fit, and so we're gonna see how they do on
longevity-wise. Yeah, car. Out of all my X-Ray experience, I don't think I've ever replaced one. No, honestly, like they're pretty solid.
You know, so nod to X-Ray on that. Also for the springs, so they are still the factory yellow spring rate, but they're the new length. So this is like the 78,
78,
or 75,
and 73.
Yeah. So 78s in the front, 73 in the rear. Like we talked about before when we kind of went over what we had for it.
How I was gonna get outfitted, yeah.
Electronic wise, it's ProTech electronics. So I have a 170 SPL in for steering. I've had this one for quite a while actually, and just as a precautionary thing, I put new gears in it before I put it into the car.
Smart.
And that.
I see that they're now including a steel horn.
Yes, I really like seeing that. Like, how often have we seen a kit or gotten a kit and they're like, here's your selection of servo horns, but we highly recommend. And like, if you've run 8-scale and you try to run the plastic servo horn,
good luck.
You know, yeah.
Good luck.
You're lucky if you get through either a battery pack or a tank of fuel.
Yeah.
And not have blown it out.
And that's not even on the racetrack. That's just, breaking an engine in.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not like CNC machined or anything, but
it's definitely
still a metal
solid,
one.
Yeah, pretty solid option at least. And it's 25 spline because I mean, pretty much everything is standardized to 25 now.
Yeah.
There are a couple that aren't, but I mean, 95% of the market is 25. So why not just include it? So not a Tekno for that. So moving on, I see you have the Sky RC electric switch with the LVC cutoff. So anyone running LiPo receiver packs, the Reedy, the ProTech, the Sky RC, any of these electric switches are the route to go.
Any LiPo battery, for sure.
Yeah, they are definitely the route to go for those switches. I know the ProTech and the Reedy switches are a little bit more. We've had amazing luck with the Sky RC electric switch, so we run them pretty frequent.
Yeah, I do have extras, but I haven't had to replace one.
No, zero failures on my end too.
Yeah, exactly. For throttle servo, I am running a shorty servo. It's not. I know people are gonna be like, oh, it's too thin and that sort of stuff. It's not for the speed. It's not for anything else. The reason I'm running it is I found in the past that even with spacing, the bottom of like a full-size servo was like contacting the chassis.
So you had to shim it up, but then when you shim it up, it gets all your linkages out to lunch.
Exactly, like especially with the brake linkage and that. So that's why I run that. I've been running that for a couple years now, and I have not had any failures.
Well, I know Lutz and Testman, and there was a whole bunch of people that went to this trend just for that reason and a little bit of weight savings. Right, because I mean, with running a hump pack style battery in these cars, you have a lot of weight. Now servos are getting, full aluminum case, and you're putting all these extra kind of whiz bang stuff on top of it. So it definitely starts adding up for sure, especially if you're running the low pro head, things that have lesser weight. Now it's nice to get away from heavy electronic side. Yeah,
well, that's these are the trade-offs, right? Well, I want it to be more durable. Well, we make it out of a more durable material. That durable material is heavier than the other one, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
It's those trade-offs.
For sure. So we were gonna do the ProTech clutch, but I know we
kind of did.
There was kind of some hiccups there, right?
Yeah, so I did throw the ProTech clutch on. Great clutch, by the way. And I do plan to run it in the future. I'm not completely running it right now. What I am running is the shoes for it, but in the stock clutch. Yeah. So I had the correct size. So it's the 1.0 1mm springs. I had 4 sets of those because they are different from the Tekno. So Tekno and Losi are the same style clutch spring, whereas like Associated X-Ray ProTech are a different style of spring, but they all work with the same shoe. So it's not the difference in how it engages the shoe, it's how it engages the actual flywheel.
Yeah.
On that. So I'm running the ProTech shoes with some Tekno 1mm springs. Okay. And with the Tekno flywheel and clutch bell. Actually, this is a Lutz RC one because it's vented that I had.
Which is nice because the stock Tekno ones are not vented.
They are not. Yeah, no, it's still a really good unit. I have run them in the past, but just for those long mains, it's nice to have a vent.
Little vent.
Really, it could very well just be a placebo effect, but I still like to use it.
So with the ProTech clutch, for anybody that was essentially looking at it as an option, the issue that he was having was the engagement of the clutch bell to the spur gear wasn't quite right. And you weren't getting full engagement on the clutch bell to the spur just because it was so far back. If you shim that flywheel forward, essentially the issue was then you'd have to go to like a top hat bushing to essentially ride that outer bearing to get the engagement correct. So there is optional motor mounts you can get that do shift that engine forward a bit to then help you to run that ProTech clutch. So that was kind of an asterisk I did kind of want to mention after we
Yeah,
talked
no, for
about
sure.
the build.
Yeah.
So we'll post down below some of those engine mounts if you wanted to run that ProTech clutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know J&T Bearing makes one.
Yeah,
that
they make a couple really nice quick changes as well with
they do,
the extra
so they,
length.
So they moke, yeah, so they moke.
They moke.
English is the second language to me. So they do make two different styles. One is mimicking the stock version that has the extended chassis brace.
Yeah, so you can kind of see in there, it has like an extended, essentially motor mount. And then instead of just your standard 4 screws, you actually get 5 screws.
Correct.
So you have way more essentially stiffness on the engine and pipe side in comparison to just running a shorty style engine mount.
Yes, or they have one without that then gives you a little more flex, which in theory should give you a little more, maybe a little bit better in the bumps, a little more traction, a little more stability.
Yeah, that's always kind of what we're going with. And I think this car might require it in some kind of conditions.
That's, I mean, you see a lot of, like at the big race, like your you know, Silver States, D&C get really blown out where you have like 8, 9, 1,000 entries. You know, that's a lot of runtime on a track. So one caveat to that I'll mention that Tekno does include a different rear tank mount to accommodate going to that shortened motor mount.
Gotcha.
So like I like seeing that kind of foresight that they put into this, where it's like, no, we know that that's an option, and we're, you know, it's in the box.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something you have to go out and like, oh, now I got to buy a parts tree that has it's for one motor or for one tank mount.
And I'm never going to use the other parts because tank mounts tend to not break.
Yeah, I mean, you can maybe strip them out if you're taking the tank in and out a lot,
but
especially with a electric screwdriver. Speaking of, if you are building this car, these plastics are probably some of the like most sturdy and robust plastics that I've dealt with and that. So I would highly recommend having an electric screwdriver to build this car. You know, some of they have a substantial amount of engagement with the screw in a lot of these pieces, which is good for strength and durability, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you to screw it in, given the strength, like when I put these like center diff ones in, it was like squeaking, like had that squeak to it.
Yeah. When
I put it in.
So last couple things to chat about. It looks like you have a Mugen tank pull.
Yeah, that's just personal preference. I like that tank pull. It doesn't get like, you know, beat up or mangled or anything in the event of a crash or getting tangled with somebody else. It's, you know, flexible in that.
And just it doesn't usually pull the tank open if you crash, like some of those other ones.
Yeah, like it still comes with that kind of more like the low-C style, like the hard plastic loop is what comes with the car. So I just went to that. Again, just personal preference. Air filter now, they changed the air filter. It's more of the associated
low-C style. And it's also mounted differently in the car because it used to be this way.
Yeah, so now it's more laterally. I know some guys have been going to, and it's not just on the Tekno platform, on Nitro in itself. As part of their repertoire, they claim that it, you know, gets a little more air in, is the Kyosho style air filter.
So
you know, for those big tracks with like long straights and that. I guess when they go up in Venturi size, they'll use that. Don't think that that's necessarily an issue for me, but or us here. But yeah, it's one thing.
Nice to kind of have, right? In kind of the arsenal of stuff. Nice that now the side guard is cut and molded.
Yes.
To be cut for a pipe
you don't have
hanger.
to notch it out yourself.
Yeah, that's
like
really nice.
There's
just a lot of nice little things that this
really
now
good
includes.
features. And like I said, everything went together really, really well. I mean, you have the adjustability. I mean, these two boxes are basically the same size. So if you want to run, like right now, I have the receiver in the rear box, which is kind of the stock factory setup or like the configuration. So receiver in here, battery up here. But as you can see, it has the provision. You can move and run the receiver here and the battery here, which would change the balance of the car a little bit.
100%, right? Yeah, a little more rear bias if you're on that.
I know that's one thing that they're doing, some guys are doing like down in California and have like 3D printed the radio trace for the associated car to move that battery back there. So,
shout out to Wally Builds. That's his thing.
Nick Wallet.
Yeah, it seems like that has been a awesome kind of touch to the RC8B 441 platform.
And I just liked how with their radio tray, there's provisions for everything you need. There was a provision like this is for the switch. It's more for traditional switch, and I just implemented it for the electronic, but this position is for the switch. This is already pre-set up and set out, pre-drilled in that for your transponder. Like I said, your battery, your receiver. It has the channel through there to keep, route your battery or your wires, sorry, much easier now.
Yeah.
And
those little things on a nitro car do go a long way, because now you're having extra servo, which is an extra lead, and then it's an extra battery lead, and then it's an extra transponder lead, and then it's an extra switch lead or two. And
I like the fact that they didn't skimp on this space to run the wires and the connectors and everything else. There's like lots of space in there. So
which again is just really like some people have an oversight because they do have a channel, but then there's not enough room to run anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then all in all, what are the things that you didn't run as a factory kit setup other than the springs and the clutch? So you were talking about some setup stuff for what we're going to be running.
Mostly it's just like omitting a couple of screws. Like there's the screws here for the D block. That just helps stiffen the rear end of the car. Right now I'm not running either of the rear stiffeners, rear braces on the back, but I'm contemplating maybe at least throwing the short one in. I'm feeling a little bit leery about it, but I was going off another setup I had seen, and had seen the video of the car running, and it looked really good, hence why I'm not running those. Right now, even the shock package is stock. It's a stock pistons, the stock oil weight, so 500 CST in the front, 600 CST in the back.
So a little offset for what we would normally see.
But it's also, I think there's a 1.2 in the front and like a 1.7 in the rear. So hence why
both 8-hole.
No, 4-hole.
4, okay.
4-hole.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
I think 6 has kind of been the min that we've seen on a lot of setups.
Most
like
other ones,
X-ray wise has been 6.
Anywhere from 6 to 8 is usually where we're going. Although you do see
some 5s kind of rolling through lately too.
The plan though is to try out what is considered the recommended, which is the VRP 20-hole.
Yeah, with the flapper discs in them.
That's right.
Yeah, so kind of like the MIP bypass.
But I just wanted to try these first to give a kind of a baseline to see like what is the stock versus those ones, and what is the difference. Is it that much better? And we'll let you know.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for kind of giving us the run through on the brand new NB48 2.2. So on the next video, we're gonna have kind of a head-to-head with the X-Ray and the Tekno. So we're gonna weigh them. We're gonna kind of get all the stuff that we've done on the X-Ray versus all the stuff we're gonna get done on this Tekno at the next race, which for us is going to be the July 9th to 13th, I think, is the rough
July
dates.
9th to 13th,
and
Canadian, Roar Canadian Nats.
Yeah, Roar Canadian Nats.
Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
So super high grip track, big air. So it should be a good test between a pivot ball car and a C-Hub car.
Yeah.
So exactly. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And, those are kind of the two top cars in each of those categories in RC, I feel.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a different challenge, but yeah, that's on for the next one. So if you like this video and want more content on this new Tekno or head-to-head between 8-scale brands, throw down a like and throw down a comment so we know what you're racing or what you want to see more info on.
Yeah, so, if you have any questions or anything also, let us know. Have any suggestions? If you run this car, let me know.
Yeah. And any info is good, so especially starting with a new platform. So next up on the docket for videos, we're also going to be doing a TC8 unboxing with a new guest that we're going to kind of talk about. And then kind of future videos, I know Shawn and this other future guest, we're talking about doing some setup stuff and walking through some 10 scale, 8 scale off-road videos, and then some 10 scale touring car and some 10 scale off-road, because this other guy does a lot of that stuff too, and kind of doing some instruction videos and some other stuff like that. So if you guys like to see that, let us know down in the comments. So thank you so much to Shawn for bringing his new Tekno. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for all that new content coming. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.